And welcome everyone to Growth Monday. So happy you're here to join us. I'm very excited about today's guest that we have on the show today. Been looking forward to this for quite a while, Stephanie. We have the great Stephanie Saunders on the show. Welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Hi, I love the idea of a Growth Monday topic for a show. So nice one, and I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm just tickled pink to have you here, and glad that we're able to have you here today. And I've been actually following your content for quite a while. It's been quite a while that I've actually been following it, and I've learned quite a bit just from watching you, what you're doing. Now, a lot of the folks who are on the platform, they'll see us post different things and say, oh, well, that person's always been like that, or they're just naturally gifted, and they had all the right moves, and all the right stuff went their way, and that's why they do so well on video. But I definitely want to talk through some of that with you, and kind of what was your process like? Were you just born for the camera, Stephanie, and you were just ready to roll? Once LinkedIn got ready, you were just ready to roll with this video thing?
Oh my gosh, that's the funniest thing ever. Absolutely not. I am brand new to all of this. I mean, I guess not brand new anymore. It's been about a year and a half for coming up on it. My whole social media marketing was really born out of necessity from the pandemic. And
Well,
at first,
yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, at first it was terrifying. So I am not a natural.
Let me ask this: what for you? What was the thing that kind of held you up? What was terrifying for you? What about video was kind of frightening for you?
So I think there are two parts to it. I think it stems from being in a society where like everything is perfection that you share on the internet. I've had Instagram for as long as I can remember, and you edit and you alter the photo to make sure that it's the most perfect thing ever, so you get to look at it on your feed for the next however long you have Instagram, and kind of getting over the perception of like what people will think of you being your honest raw self. So it's sort of what we were accustomed to, and then the fear of what everyone else is going to say about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I had some of those same concerns as well. Just putting it out there, and are they even going to see it? Is anyone actually going to see what I just put out there? That's always a big fear. But I wanted to also since today is Growth Monday, we want to talk about how you experience growth, because coming into the pandemic, your life was different anyway. Even without outside of the pandemic, one of the things that I remember in following your content is that you were working for corporate America. You had this job that you at the time it was kind of like the height of your career. It's kind of what you always strive for, and then you saw that it wasn't really what you thought it would be. Let's talk a little bit about that and how you got to where you are today.
Right. So I love this topic, growth, especially Growth Monday, because of what a great way to kick off the week. So congrats to you on that idea.
Thank you.
What I really like to talk about, though, and I think it pertains to kind of your world since you're in that recruitment industry, is sort of how to like gauge a market as we hit these rough patches where we have crises. I mean, clearly it's the first time we ever had a pandemic or, a health crisis like this, at least in the past few decades. So for me, when I started my career, I started during the last recession. And I feel like I say that all the time, but the reason I really like to talk about it is that I remember what it was like at this crucial time in the world where jobs were scarce, right? So there's this job scarcity, an abundance of graduates, like people not knowing what to do, so many people with student loans. So I had to take a path that I wasn't originally set out to take, which I feel like so many people are at right now. And it ended up being like the best decision I ever made because I did something I hadn't planned. I was a little bit upset about it because I felt like it was really the best and only option that I had in front of me. And then I ended up learning an entirely different industry that is now something I do as an investor. So I just recall, though, at the time, how I found this job, which I feel like is relevant in terms of growth, right? So we've got two types of people right now. We've got this whole abundancy of people who are willing to be entrepreneurs and to risk it all, right? We've got this, it's like the era of
Yeah.
entrepreneurism. And then we have the people who are looking for new industries to get a solid job in because maybe they were in hospitality before and that's what they went to school for. And I feel like hospitality is shifting and it's taking a turn that wasn't expected. So back when I originally went through this, I had to look at what was booming in the economy. And clearly it was a housing crisis. So I had to figure out what would be profiting because of the crisis we were in. And it happened to be banks who were handling the foreclosure process. And again, this is not something I really was interested in, but it allowed me an opportunity to learn corporate, to learn an entire new field, which again, like I said, is now where I make investments because I've learned these skills that banks don't really share with everyone. So I feel like we're there again. And I feel like that's something we really all need to be paying attention to, no matter what type of person you are. If you're trying to go the entrepreneurial direction, or if you are looking for a new industry as an employee, I feel like we have to pay attention to what markets are growing. And in my opinion, that's tech at the moment. So
Yeah.
I'm offering, not that it's much, but I'm offering grants to people who want to do continuing ed and tech through the Susskind Foundation. And I'm really passionate about that because, again, I remember what it was like trying to find that new market back then.
I appreciate that. Wow, that's awesome. So, let me just see what the audience thinks about being in. They're impressed, apparently, obviously. Let me ask you this: what would you, as you think back? I know you do quite a bit of volunteer work. As you think back on your volunteer work, what do you think has been the most rewarding part of it?
I think it's been the aspiring entrepreneur stuff. So, talking to young kids like that, just they may have people around them that don't encourage them to look for different ways to make an income and turn their side hustle of making jewelry into an actual business. But we live in that world now. You can turn anything into a business, and we live in the less doctor lawyer era than I would have ever imagined. So I love to be able to offer real advice to people that are trying to figure it out.
Love that. I love that too. By the way, Charles says hello. He's glad to be here. Thanks you for coming on, Charles. And those who are watching, let us know where you're signing in from, what city, what state, what country. And while I've got Stephanie here and myself here, feel free to ask any questions and add your comments as we go along this discussion. Now, I do have a fun question for you, Stephanie. I don't know if you've experienced any of our fun questions, but I have a fun question. Would you rather a would you rather question or an open-ended question?
How about a would you rather?
Okay. This is interesting. Would you rather never be able to make a phone call in private again, or always have to read aloud anytime you read something?
Anytime I read something in general, when
Yes.
I'm reading the paper.
Yes. You'd always have to read aloud.
I think I would rather always have to read aloud.
Okay, why is that?
I kind of do that already. You can ask friends or my husband, and I'm like, oh, this thing, it says, so blah, blah, blah. And it's quite annoying to some people. They'd rather that I not do it. But I think there's something about a private phone call. I don't make many of them, but when I do have phone calls, it's nice if they can be a private one.
I think I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. And guys, in the comments, let us know what you think. Would you go with a private phone call? Or would you always have to read aloud? So that's an interesting question. It's a tough choice either way. Welcome, Ralph. Ralph is also joining us as well. My next question for you. City. What's that?
I said New York City in the house. You guys.
Oh yeah, I got New York in the house. Awesome. Yeah. And you're quite the traveler, by the way. And weren't you in New York not too long ago?
Yeah. So, it's crazy. So my husband's from New York. I love New York. I remember when I was in corporate, one of the things that I do value that I had been given the opportunity to do was really travel constantly. In the beginning, it was super fun. I was like, wow, I'm, 24 years old and every week I'm on an airplane, first class. It was like one of these perks. And then I realized it was just me being kind of like a sheep, like running for the man. But it was a great experience. And I always loved my time in New York and California. And it was random. The airlines right now are such a mess. I had an international flight planned, and the night before, at like 4 a.m., the flight was rerouted due to overbooking and understaffing. And yeah, I ended up in New York for 2 days, and New York looks amazing. I was expecting like Gotham City, after all this
Right.
crazy movement from there, and I've heard that many people are homeless in Manhattan, but the city was so clean, beautiful weather. The park looked amazing, restaurants were open. It was just before they started the mandate on the masks for the vaccination, but in the windows you could see it said like, wear a mask if you're not vaccinated, please. And I thought to myself, this is interesting because how will they know? And I could tell there was a plan on the rise. But yeah, I was very impressed with the way New York City seemed to be holding up.
Yeah, yeah. We went to Maryland recently, and of course, in airports you have to wear your mask. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it was an interesting experience. I mean, I didn't. There wasn't really a time I felt unsafe. Pretty much everyone complied. I didn't really see too much in the way of non-compliance with the masks. And of course, we're vaccinated too. But like you said, you can't tell. If it's optional, you don't know if the other person has been vaccinated or not. So yeah, I try not to worry
Yeah.
about stuff like that.
And I
Um,
felt like the airports were safe, but I felt like there was a lot of miscommunication and confusion, and like it's kind of in chaos and it's understaffed. I think that, unfortunately the airline industry is a major one where I think people are trying to get away from that as a career because they may not pay well and they may be overworking them, especially now with trying to get as much money recouped as possible from the past, pandemic situation. So I
yeah,
think that we're going to have to pay more in the airline industries.
yeah, and I'm seeing prices go up everywhere. So that's why we got to make sure we keep having these growth Monday shows so people can grow their revenue and pay those higher prices.
Right. It's true. It's true. Lots of side hustles are always needed, I think.
So okay, so if someone is looking to grow their business, for example, let's say they're in a situation where they're trying to grow their own business, or perhaps they're working for someone, they're looking to grow. Maybe they're a business development person, maybe they're a CEO that's looking to grow their business. What are some ideas? 'Cause I know you've always doing some great things with your LinkedIn profile and your marketing and all that. What's an idea to you can share with our audience to help them?
One of the ways that I really helped get, I guess, more known in the industries that I am in is go the old school route and figure out what conferences are happening. And so a lot of that now is a virtual conference, but it still includes a list of people who are attending, and
Mm-hmm.
just message every single person who's attending, whether they are in your direct focus in terms of being a potential customer or not, because you want to make friends. You want to have people who know you. You need colleagues. Like, I really do believe that you can't do everything on your own. I'm a bit of a lone wolf, but like I love to have people in the communities that I work within that know me, that I can also keep in touch with. So I like to start with the list of the people that are going to things, that are actively involved and trying to network, because you just grow your Rolodex almost instantly. So
Yeah,
that's one.
absolutely. Yep, that's a
Yeah,
great
that's
one.
one of them. Then I love the groups. I've always seen like people say that after a conference they'll even if it's not a live in-person one, if it's virtual, you go on to like the group afterwards and you start messaging everyone that's in the group, like whether it's a LinkedIn group or a Facebook group. But I think you should also do that prior to, and like set up little 5-minute meetings, like, hey, are you free for a coffee? I'd like to get to know you. I'm going to be at the same event as you. Or do you want to have a quick call before this virtual? I'd love to chat. But not being salesy. Too many people are salesy now. And it's just, I think you have to understand that it's like the time of transitioning to relationship building, because we don't make relationships happen the same way anymore. So if you just sit there on the internet and sell, it's kind of like you're the guy standing in the middle of the conference that's screaming at everybody to sign a contract. It's sort of the same feeling though. So
That's true.
it's a mind shift.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Nancy, welcome Nancy. Nancy's saying hello as well. Nancy Ross. One of the things I wanted to ask you too is personal brand versus company brand. I know that whenever I look at your content and I'm consuming your content on LinkedIn, which by the way, folks, if you're not following her, you should. She's got some great stuff. I notice you don't talk as much about your company, but you do kind of go into yourself as a personal brand. And I feel like I learned about your company through that. Was that intentional that you do that? Is it define for me your strategy of personal brand versus your company brand?
So will I sit here and pretend like I have all of the answers? No. Will I tell you that I have had many marketing companies tell me that I don't sell enough? Absolutely. But I know that when I am scrolling through the feeds on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, these are the platforms that I kind of use. Definitely, I use LinkedIn way more than anything, but I do not want to be sold. When I see the same person say the same thing in 100 different ways, I unfollow them because I'm not that type of human. So for me, I don't resonate with the constant sell, the constant boring discussion about what their service is and what they do. I love to hear the stories about how they have impacted a client, and that's a personal share. I mean, it could also be kind of like a personal client share, but it's personal, right? It's how this impacted me, the problem that was solved. And then talking about them, I resonate with them more because I understand like who they are as a person, whether I like them or not. If I like them, then I'm even more interested in the things they're doing. So I think that it was intentional in that it's what I also would like to consume.
That makes a lot of sense because what we value generally is something that we also portray as well. So yeah, that definitely does come through. In terms of if you had to do it over again, if you could, let's say, consult with yourself, how long ago did you start your business?
Well, United Claim Specialist has been in business for over 10 years. I got involved with the business when I left corporate, which was about 5 years ago. And
okay.
I also started my business around that same time.
Okay, so let's say you were giving advice to yourself back then. What advice would you give to that Stephanie?
I would have started using social media a long time ago. Yeah, and I would have started using social media in this way, where I was just not afraid to share who I am, not afraid to share my stories of failure, because I think we're too consumed by perfection, and it's not real. And I always find myself still trying to I want to make this sound better than it is because maybe I feel stupid because I made this mistake. But the reality is that when I share the mistake that I made and overcome it, first of all, I get to look back on it because it's there in stone on my feed. And it's also something that resonates with other people. They're like, wow, I just did that yesterday. Thank God I'm not alone here. Or maybe they're about to make that mistake. So I would have started being a lot more real on social media a long time ago. And I think it would have created a lot more value and traction for the people that I want to do business with and have in my sphere.
And as you've grown your business, where have you gotten more of your, I guess, because a lot of people want to know this is like, how do I get more, leads? I know you're not very salesy, but I know you do have incoming leads that come in. What tends to drive the needle more, drive more leads more from what you have noticed?
Well, I think in terms of a platform, if that's what you mean,
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn all day. So I see so many people putting in effort in onto Instagram, and I do not find value on Instagram. I'm in a B2B business. I am not a product-based service. I'm more of a linear product. I don't have something where you can sign up and have a membership. Those types of things work really well on Instagram because it's just a constant, it's almost like an email funnel that's visual, right? You do the video, you pump it out, you click here, you do the ads, you pay for content, you pay for collaboration. When you're in like a small business service space, like you're an attorney, you're an accountant, all of these types of fields, I feel like you need to be a person. And on LinkedIn, when you connect with people, you know what industry they're in, you know that they're a real person. Like you can look at their resume and you can see, hey, do I have mutual people? I know the city they're in. On Instagram, you don't really get that data. So I personally have found more value in LinkedIn than anywhere else. And I've also gotten more leads from LinkedIn. And, when I say I'm not salesy, like, believe me, I was a salesperson for many years, but I feel like your content shouldn't be so salesy because it's kind of annoying. I think you do need to repeat your message frequently so people understand what you do.
Yeah.
And I think I've been on more of a path of explaining who I am for a while, which I think has opened many doors. But I do think you need to be on target with like what you're doing in the world so people know. But you can bring business in both ways.
I love it. That's great. So, if you were to describe, oh, by the way, Nancy says that's a great tip to be real on social media versus creating a perception disconnected from who you are.
Yep.
Nice thought.
It's
Yeah,
hard. It's not easy.
exactly. It's not. Okay. So, if you were to describe Instagram like it were a person with a personality versus, let's say, LinkedIn, as if it was a person with a personality, how would you describe those two different platforms? I'd love to hear this from you.
Oh gosh. So like, am I going to name someone like a famous person or something?
However you want to do it. Just like if you were trying to describe someone who had no knowledge of what Instagram was all about, how would you describe the personality of Instagram versus, let's say, the personality of Instagram? I'm sorry, of LinkedIn. Excuse me.
Of LinkedIn. I would say that the personality of Instagram is a little bit like a college student. And I would say that LinkedIn is a little bit more like a college grad.
Okay. All right. I'm liking this.
College student, all excited, ready for the future, ready to party, ready to mix and mingle, right? It's all like pictures and look at me kind of stuff. And you don't really stop on Instagram unless it's like a visual photo you want to see. And then I think on LinkedIn, we're a little more mature and we're a little more focused and we kind of know a little bit more what we want.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Now, one of the things I've noticed, Stephanie, and it seems to be intentional, is that when I look at your posts and things like that, there seems to be some intentionality in aesthetics. I mean, in terms of the way that you've got certain color schemes you seem to use, the bright colors in the different photos. Is that just something you just happen to do, or is there quite a bit of intentionality behind that?
Well, I think everything is also visual. So I just said I think Instagram is more visual. I do agree with that because again, it's just I use Instagram for like my personal shares and photos. And it's kind of a place for me just to share a little bit more of my personal side, what I had for lunch yesterday, the outfit that I wore to a meeting or something like that. But I do still think that your brand is visual. because I don't really stop on a gray, black, and white brand. I want, like, I have something visual that needs to bring me in. So
Yeah.
I need a little bit of color. And I noticed that I was drawn to certain colors that were brighter. And so, yeah, I do mix it up, but I do like the pink in my brand a lot. And UCS has bright green, and brighter colors definitely help.
Last year I was only just using blue, 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 blue every single time. And so this year I started toying with other colors, and I saw the engagement go up on quite a bit of my posts. So thank you for that affirmation. I appreciate that. You kind of helped me with that. All right, so I'm gonna ask you another would you rather question. You ready?
Okay. Yep.
Okay, this is interesting here. So, if you had to pick, would you rather always have to wear cheap, well-matched clothes or expensive, mismatched clothes?
Oh, I'm gonna go with wow. I guess I'm gonna go with cheap matched clothes.
Okay, why is that?
I think it's all about the flow of things, right? I do think that there's something to be said about wearing cheap clothes. When you put on a cheap shirt, it feels different than an expensive one. But if I were wearing like leopard with cheetah every day of my life, I might vomit. Or like polka dots with stripes. That would be hard and dizzying for me.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so I want to just do some stuff for my recruiter. By the way, in the audience, those who are in the comments, I want you to tell me, even if you're watching the replay, live or replay, tell me which one you would do. Would you wear the mismatched clothes that were expensive, or the cheap, well-matched clothes? Both are hard. It's a hard choice, actually.
Yeah.
All right. So
What
let's
about
go.
you, Rollis?
Which one would I do?
What's your answer there? Yeah.
I'm going to go with the cheap, well-matched clothes as well, because I do think there's some ways I can get some bargains on some pretty decent clothes and just match them up a certain way. And it doesn't say I have a limit, right? So if it's cheap, it doesn't last long. I can always just buy another one,
Right.
So I'm going to go with that one.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you something in terms of my recruiting audience and those who are trying to build their teams. There's some things that I think that they're not taking consideration when they're putting their themselves out there and trying to grow their candidate base and get more folks on our team. And I think your marketing eye can kind of help some of my audience. So from your perspective, you're not in our business, you're not in recruiting, but I think that your opinion and your feedback will be very helpful for us. So let's say I've got a very hard to fill position. Very few people are applying for it, and if they do, a lot of them aren't qualified. What can I do, for example, on LinkedIn to get more people interested that are possibly hard to fill candidates interested in my job? What are some things you would do if I gave that assignment to you? What are some things that, as you start to think about it, that you would want to do first?
I think catchy title.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah, I think, I recall there was something that I read recently where like talk about the industry, like explosive industry or like re-emerging industry. If it is, of course, I mean, you don't want to make it up, right?
Right,
Someone
right.
will find out that it's not explosive or it's not re-emerging. But the title I think is a big one. And then I think it's also talk about growth factors, what offerings are available. And if there aren't any, maybe it needs to be incorporated into the offering is some way to have growth expectations, like quarterly performance exercises where you're actually growing as a professional. I think people are really looking for an idea of what the future holds. So if you can outline that a bit more in a job and just make it seem more exciting, and hopefully, it's not just fluff, and it really is. But I think that people are looking for more security in that way.
Oh, I love that. That's a goal right there. So number one, having a catchy title. I don't think that there's very much thought that goes into the titles when it comes to job postings today, and that's something that definitely needs help. We try and do what we can to do more with the posting. We haven't been working on the titles as much because of the job boards. Some of them have some rules as to what kind of verbiage you can use in the title. But I think it's worth looking at it. What's the best way, what's the best way we can make it the most attractive to a potential person who's looking at our jobs? And of course, on LinkedIn, if you're posting it on LinkedIn, there is no limitations as to what verbiage you can use. So that's especially a great place, I would think. And then, okay, so a follow-up to that, we've been using videos, short videos, usually about a minute or so long, explaining what it's like in that particular job and that sort of thing. And we've been having some interviews with some of the hiring managers as well as the staff. How effective do you think that approach could be with just putting your marketing brain on it in terms of kind of adding some color and visual to these job postings that are typically just text only?
I think that's exciting, but I think it's also difficult because if you do that, you need to make sure that it's an exciting video, right? It can't just be this like 1995 explanatory thing.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's true.
And you also don't want to come across as like too fun because it is a job. So I don't know. That's an interesting one. I have not seen that. I would love to see what that actually looks like.
Okay, cool. I love just bouncing these kind of ideas. We've been using them for about we did our first one back in 2016. We've produced probably, I would say by now, between 500 and 1,000 of them, and have done a few million views on them so far. And I tell you, at the beginning, it was like what you said earlier. It was very boring. It just was not. It was not interesting at all. And so we started to find ways to make it more interesting by asking our candidate base, what would you like to see in a video? And they came back with things like, we want to see what potential hiring managers like. Want to make sure there's somebody I can get along with, who I'd want to work with. And they're like, I like to see some of the coworkers too, see who I might be working with. And they're like, I also want to see the environment. I want to see what it looks like. Like, you guys using the latest equipment, or is it like is it old dingy offices? I mean, what is it? What is it I'm getting into here? And so I was like, that makes sense. And so we started incorporating some of that, and has gotten a lot of good results.
That's great.
I wanted to ask you what your thought is about the growth part, because you mentioned within the job, it's good to kind of point towards what are some of the perks and some of the growth parts of it. I'd like to drill down a little bit more on that. What are you thinking of? Give me some ideas of what you're thinking of.
So I think like the professional development stuff is like really massive, so when we offer different programs for professional development, whether it be, for courses, if someone's in school, so we help with like their continuing education, or if it's like programs, like that's really how I got into this whole giving grants for the continuing ed and tech through my foundation, was understanding how many people actually found value in these, year-long free prepaid courses that are accredited, that can give them a new certificate, a new accreditation that can further their life, their career. You can't be afraid of like losing the employee. You have to be prepared to kind of pay into them, what's growing them. And I think that when that happens, it just creates a different environment. And then you end up maybe having someone who's been with you forever, who's extremely qualified now with all these amazing certifications, that wants to be, your CEO, right? So I think it can go different ways, but it's that professional development type of offering.
Now I'm going to, with you saying, which I totally agree. But one of the things I've heard from employers is that they're scared that if they give them these extra training and certifications, that they're going to leave. So I just want to hear your response to that. How do you answer that question?
I think that if you're afraid someone will leave, then you're thinking backwards. right? I think that when you have people who are miserable in your company and they're
Right.
living paycheck to paycheck, then they're going to leave eventually anyway. And it will probably be just because they're just so miserable, they hate their life, right? Wouldn't it be better if someone left you because you've helped them enhance their career and they're always proud of having that relationship with you or having worked with you? I think though that you want to have happy, healthy, well-developed employees, and that's the way to think about it.
I love it. I love that. That's a great response. In fact, let me just check in with the audience here and see what some of them have to say about it. Yeah, actually, I see some comments here. Oh, there's some folks here who already like what you're saying, and I'll add to this that one of the things that I saw happen in one of the quotes I was reading was that, well, what if they leave? Well, what if we train them and they leave? And the response was, but what if we don't train them and they stay?
Right. 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 Well, and if you think about it, like there, one of the things that's difficult about running a business is making sure you have people who are educated in their role, right? So there's training anyway. So if you're training your staff professionally and they understand their tasks every day, why not give them something that's a self-development, professional development tool that just helps them to become better and better so that they're valuing their role with you more, and then they're becoming more and more qualified so that they can apply when you have a management position open. Like, I think it's great to grow from within. So give people the tools to have that opportunity.
I agree, and I know with us, we found that they're more likely to want to stay. I think because you're giving them that professional development, and they enjoy that. And so once you give them more opportunities, that's why I think what we seem to be like minded on a lot of this because I liked what you're mentioning about giving those growth opportunities. Now we do have a couple of folks who came in and says. She says on Instagram and on LinkedIn, I agree with you, Stephanie. That's what Joanne said. And Charles says mismatch. I might be able to create a whole new fashion trend.
I agree. I agree. But you know what? I want to go back to the courses and, offerings from an employee
Yes.
offering. I recall one of my first jobs in corporate, they were trying to go green and they were offering to anyone who was a smoker some sort of like hypnotism and like red light sensory. So like apparently there are certain points in your body where you can have this like infrared light done every few weeks, and then you are in a sense hypnotized and you can get over an addiction, right? So I recall it being not even a professional course or something that gives them a certificate that helps them with their personal resume, but it was development, like trying to just do things that were valuable for their employees, like because they cared about them, they wanted them to be green with them, right? So that was something I never forgot. I was like, this is so bizarre, but it's really incredible to see a company spending the money to put into their team.
Now, as you said that, you reminded me of something I wanted to ask you too. What's your opinion on this? Do you think that there should be more training to help people with simple things like knowing how to dress for an interview or how to articulate yourself in an interview? Or do you think that companies should be more inclusive and pretty much let the person come how they are and be more accepting of the different types of folks? Which one do you think we should be worked on? If you had your choice, which one would you work on if you could fix it?
Well, that's an interesting question because I also love the come as you are thing, right? And then you understand who they are fully and they come in and you can help them become a better professional if that's their interest, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. As a company, I don't know. I mean, I think that people would like to have an option to be able to be prepared. And then they have to keep in mind that if other people are coming in prepared and they're taking courses to learn how to do this in a certain way, then that will be their competition, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's a tough one.
Yeah.
It could go either way.
And for me, I know for me, I grew up in a culture where you can talk a certain way maybe around your friends, but when you're on an interview, you're just much more articulate and you enunciate more, and kind of like how I'm talking like now, versus if I'm just, hey, what's going on, man? Just if I'm more easygoing and just casual. But if you try and interview that way, it may not go over well.
Right. I kind of prefer, though, sometimes when I am actually talking to a human and I feel like they're being their authentic self with me right now while still maintaining professionalism. So I don't know. I think it's really hard. That's a tough one, Rollis.
Yeah, it is. Okay. I have another question for you. And those in the comments, I want you to answer as well. What's your best hidden talent, Stephanie?
Oh my gosh. Hidden?
Yes.
My
At least hidden
best
to us.
Right. Is it hidden as in like hidden from my LinkedIn community? That's something they may not know about me? Or
Yes.
hidden like nobody knows?
Well, you know what? We could do that one too. Either one. Whichever one you want to do.
Gosh. I don't know if it's considered a talent, but I am a list maker. And I am extremely OCD about my lists.
Okay.
I make lists for my fashion, for when I'm traveling, for my outfits, but also, my daily goals. Like I'm pretty killer on my list. I have one here. I always have a list.
Ooh, I love this.
And I still use pen and paper.
So give me your latest fashion list. I'm curious. What's on your latest?
Well, I'm really so I live in Florida and we really don't have seasons here. So that makes me even more obsessed with changing seasons because I don't have them. So I'm really excited for fall. I like all the holidays this time of year. I'm an October baby. So I look forward to fall every year. And this year, I'm looking forward to going on a few trips that will involve cold weather. So I have my fashion for fall ready to go. Lots of jean jackets, lots of leather pants and boots, and turtleneck sweaters.
Awesome, I love it.
Yeah, no mismatched stuff though. I'm going with the matched stuff.
Okay, so and how about your business one? You said you had a business one too. Your goals, you said.
Yeah. So I really appreciate small goals. I have the main list that's like usually quarterly, and that is like what I need to and want to achieve. They're kind of in two separate categories.
I like that.
Yeah, I often achieve the need to and the want to kind of end up being like a year thing. But I like to do a weekly list where it's small goals. I mean, I think that we forget how important the small goals are, right? So when we cross off a list of 100 small goals, I think we can be pretty proud of ourselves, even if we haven't done all the yearly ones yet.
Those who are watching, I cannot tell you how important I think what you just said is about want versus needs, because when we don't separate the type of goals that we have and we just get used to not hitting those goals, then after a while they're meaningless. But if you separate the wants and the needs and you get used to always hitting your needs, is what you said, you pretty much always hit your needs and then sometimes you hit your wants, I think that actually does something positive for your psyche as well. I don't know if that was intentional, but that's what I'm catching from that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we take it for granted too, right? We don't really realize that those wants are probably not even really that necessary either. I mean, that can apply to anything, right? It's not just in your business goals, right?
Exactly. I love it. Nancy Ross, she says, I love salsa dancing and everything salsa. Not sure how hidden this is. Hey, Nancy and I have this in common. I like salsa dancing too. Do you salsa dance, Stephanie?
You know what? I'm not really the best dancer.
Okay. Yeah, my wife and I, the first night that we met, we salsa danced together.
You and your wife and Nancy are going to have to teach me. So I'll stay tuned for a video tutorial on that, guys.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, thanks for sharing that, Nancy. Appreciate that. Let's see. In hidden, I'm trying to think. I'll share my hidden. Okay, so here's a hidden talent. It's actually not so hidden because I actually I posted it a while back. I play John Madden football on PS4.
Okay.
And I'm pretty good at it. So,
so it's a talent. You're that good.
It's pretty. Yeah. When I play on the online game, I usually rank about top 1%. I usually rank within the top 10,000 out of 100,000 that they rank, and there's about 8 million players a year who play the game.
Wow, that's pretty good.
But anyway, yeah. All right. So another question I have for you: email, phone call, text, or DM. Which one is your favorite and your least favorite form of communication?
I would say least favorite is email.
Okay. Why is that?
I think, as time has gone on, we get sucked into so many different funnels. And I just get so much spam. I cannot tell you the amount of time that I have spent unsubscribing to things, and then they still come through. And
yeah.
And so it's unfortunate because I think, when we write emails, we're able to get, our point across a little bit better, especially when it's task driven and it's like specific for work. So obviously I use email. But I don't prefer it. I prefer a text or a phone call. And I like DMs. But as a starting place and not to be sold, but I'm very straight to the point.
Got it.
So I need kind of like a DM like, hey, this is who I am and this is what I do. Do you think we have synergy? Right. I don't like the pretending to be friends and then the slow sell into, it's like, we all know what's going on here. Like, let's just talk. What do you do? Oh, I don't think that is resonating with me, but I wish you well. Like, right? I'm pretty straightforward. So if the DM works, then I like a phone call or a text. You can gain a lot from a phone call.
But I cannot. I love that point you made about just go ahead and let me know what you want, because stringing along, like I get somewhere, it's like, hi, how are you? I'm just like, just tell me what you want, because we don't know each other. Right. Just tell me what it is that you want.
Right. I like a hey, how are you as a, like, let me see, does this person even use this DM? Right. And then once they respond, you don't have to say like, well, I'm doing fabulous and I'm with my family. Like, it's not like that. It's really just kind of like trying to see if you're a real person. Right. And then,
I never thought of it that way. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So you actually do recommend that then?
I do, but I think it's really like the DM thing. It's really bad right now. You just have to be like real, like, hey, I wanted to chat. Can I, like, those messages that are like, I feel like it's a real person on the other end because it's organic like that, I respond to. It will catch my attention in a sea of, paragraph messages about services. The one that says like, hey, can I tell you who I am? Like, that's the one I look at.
Okay, this is actually a learning exercise for me, because I never thought of it that way. Okay, I want to ask you another question. Do you feel like you're a planner or a doer? Which one you tend to go to first? I'm already kind of guessing which one. I think I know which one. But you tend to plan more first, or do you tend to kind of do it and then you kind of learn as you go along?
I think I'm both.
Okay.
But with different things. So like, I'm a major planner in a lot of ways. Like usually my entire year is planned out for like live events and, kind of speaking engagements and sponsorships, things like that. But as far as other things, I'm more of a doer. Like, I don't like to script, podcasts. I don't like to script lives. I'm more of a doer in that regard. So I think I'm a mixed bag of both.
How about when you go on a trip?
I'm a planner.
That's what I was guessing.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you're a planner. You probably have a list of places you
Yeah.
want to go, and maybe approximately what time you're
Yeah.
going to go, and that sort of thing. Yeah, which it
You know what
helps.
though? It's
It
not
helps.
good though. Like I learned that I would really love to have a trip where I was just a doer. Like I just threw a couple things in my bag that were based on the weather and I just went. No planning.
Your self awareness is very high. I can tell.
Oh, well, thank
Because
you, Rollis.
yeah, that's good. No, that's good. We know when you're self aware, you can make adjustments and notice things about yourself. Like I know for me, I'm definitely more of a doer, and my wife, she appreciates more planning. And so whenever I'm about to get ready for a trip or something like that, and getting things set up, she'll ask me a series of questions that I used to get frustrated because I had no answers for these questions. I have no idea. I don't know. I didn't think about that. All I thought about is where we're going to go. That's it. Okay. I didn't think about all that.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
is
I've
this
learned
a
through the
man and
years.
woman thing? Is this
I
a
don't
man
know.
and
I don't
woman?
know.
Very interesting that you say that. I mean, I know we're not supposed to even talk about gender roles at all anymore these days, but it's funny because I do feel like a woman kind of picks up the planning book for the family, right? She starts to make the dinner reservations with friends and whatever. And when you're going away, it's sort of like the woman who puts it all together. And you guys are just like, let me ask you a question. If your wife didn't do that, and you went to, let's say, Canada, right? Which is a place that's super cool, but there's not a whole lot to do unless you plan a dinner or you make a reservation. So would you be fine with going to a place like that and having zero plan and ending up just sitting in your hotel lobby for the entire time?
Well, actually, what I would do is I'd probably rent a car, I'd take an Uber, and I'd figure out where I'd want to go. I'd go pull out my phone, check my little, Yelp or Google or something like that, and see what kind of restaurants there are. I have high ratings, and usually where there's restaurants, there's usually other nice places to go to, and I would just kind of play it by ear and I'd still
Wing
go
it.
places. Yeah, I'd wing it. I'm
Right.
comfortable with that.
So I think now, like when you go to New York, you can't get a reservation anywhere, like same day, right? You have to pre-plan. But it's interesting. I guess you men have to teach us women how to go with the flow a little bit.
Okay, so here's a workaround on reservations I found is that a lot of places, even the nicest restaurants, even though you can't maybe get a table, well, number one, if it's just two people, you're more likely to somehow get in there because we've gotten in there a couple of times. And we say, look, we'll eat real fast. If you if you have any openings, let us in. We got some places that you had to have reservations. You usually can't get in there. We got in that way. Another way we get in from time to time is in the bar area. The bar area sometimes will have a first come first serve, and I made some pretty nice restaurants, and you get the same level of food. I mean, there was this place in Austin we ate at. I mean, it's like if you don't have reservations, forget about it. I mean, it was like you have to wait like 2 hours to get. So we were like, okay, we put in our thing for our reservation when we walked up. I think it was like an hour and a half or a 2 hour wait, but we decided to go to the bar. We went to the bar, ordered a full meal right there at the bar. And by the time the table was ready, we were almost done eating. And I was like, yeah, we're leaving now. But you're right.
Right.
There's a lot of places that if it's really nice, you can't get in there unless you do at least a day reservations. But that's usually my workarounds.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, it's nice to go with the flow sometimes. So it's something we all have to learn how to do, right? A mix of both.
So your hubby, he's kind of more of the doer, and you're kind of more of the planner on a trip. Is that the roles you guys usually play?
Definitely. Absolutely.
So he and I understand each other on that.
Yes, I think there are a lot of men who resonate with you at this very moment.
And Charles Carlson, he says, challenge accepted, Rollis. So he apparently plays Madden as well. That's funny. We found he's a recruiter, by the way. So he appreciates our recruiter questions too. Okay, so this is my last question as we wrap up for the day. I think this would be kind of cool to find out what you think on this one. What would you prepare as your favorite meal for family and friends? If you got some family and friends coming over, what's your go-to that you're going to fix for them?
Gosh, I have so many favorites. during the pandemic, I learned how to make so many different types of foods, like Persian meals. I'm really
Oh
stuck on
yeah.
the Mediterranean meatballs with like the cooked rice that has like lots of different. Yeah, I would say something like Mediterranean meatballs with like yogurt and a bunch of vegetables. That's kind of my favorite thing right now. And made out of bison meat.
Ooh, I love bison. I love bison meat. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Have you ever had a
Yeah.
bison burger?
So I don't even eat meat.
Uh huh. Oh, sorry.
But my husband is like huge on this. Like, is it where do you get your bison meat from?
Well, first of all, the first place I had a bison burger was in Colorado. But
Ah,
now
yeah,
that I'm
me
here,
too.
but now that I'm here in Texas, we'll just go to the grocery store, pick it up, or I'll go to a restaurant and have a bison burger.
Oh. Oh, so they don't have bison at our regular grocery stores here in Florida. You have to order like a specialty version of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah.
get it here.
So, yeah, no, bison is great.
It's expensive, but you can get it. Like
Yeah.
if I want to get some bison patties, I can get some bison patties. I think it's like $10 for a little package of them, and it's like two small, like two little patties, and that's all you get. So it can be very
Yeah.
expensive, but it's very tasty. Oh my gosh! Well,
Yeah.
listen,
I
this
don't
time
even
has
eat
flown
meat and I
by.
had some.
What's
Yes, it
that?
has. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been great, Stephanie. So, for those of you who are watching, Stephanie and I, we've communicated and we've followed each other's posts for a while, but we've never really had a conversation before. You guys saw our very first conversation together. So, thank you for joining our conversation, those who are watching. And, Stephanie, thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
And for those who want to connect with you further, find out more about what you do, obviously they should follow you first of all. But if they wanted to communicate with you, what's the best way to do that with you?
I would say just find me on LinkedIn or you can check out my website at stephaniesaunders.com. But I like LinkedIn and DMs are always a great way to start a discussion.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, thank you. Thanks for all the wonderful stuff you share on your profile. It's very helpful. We appreciate you joining us. We appreciate the work that you're doing on LinkedIn and the platform.
Thank you.
All right, so stay on for just a moment, and we'll just go ahead and say bye to everyone before we cut off this transmission. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Okay, 1 second here. And then Jonathan or Joanne, let me know when it's okay to stop the recording.
You're good.
All right. Hitting the in stream button.